help on one side, and what are you hoping to kind of try to avoid maybe some of the rust from a week off going into it?
It's always a balance. It's a tough balance. It's the first time that I can remember being with Coach Hastings in the 14 years, I think it is now, we're not only an off week, but there's no school. And so we actually sent our guys back home if they wanted to for 3-4 days. And I think the balance of getting that break and getting away for what you might lose going into a Friday night, that rust you're talking about, I think you gain that on the backside. Our guys are excited to be at the rink again. And that's the main thing in this final push right now, is that guys are excited to be here.
Was there anything during the break, besides giving the guys some time off, maybe a point of emphasis, an area of the game where you and Coach Hastings felt, hey, this is an area we can take this time to really sharpen, hone in?
Not so much. As a staff, we got selfish and we utilized the time for recruiting. That's actually where Coach is right now. So got a lot done as a staff, not just Coach Hastings, but myself, the other two assistants. We were out on the road. And for guys, it was truly a mental break. When you get to this time of year, they know what we expect in terms of how we want to come out, what makes us successful. And so there's not a lot of new this time of year. And that's why right now it's really getting back into shape now over the course of this week. So we're ready to go Friday night against Michigan.
What do you expect to see from the Wolverines on Friday and Saturday?
They're as talented of a team as that we played this year, personnel-wise, not just their front end, which I think they have many guys that can hurt you with. Rutger McGroarty, the back end with Casey, those guys are special in terms of their talent. So not a lot different than the first time we played them at home. For us, we've got to stay above the puck. We've got to make sure we're finishing them and sticking to our identity, making it hard on those guys and come 200 feet.
When you played them the first time, going into that week, Casey was saying, you were kind of pulling your hair out with the power play, but then you kept them 0 for 4, but especially that first night, only took one penalty to give them that chance.
That was the key. We've talked a lot about that and just our discipline, and it won't just be for Michigan. They're number 1 in the country right now. You got Minnesota coming the next week. I know Michigan State's a top 6 power play in the country right now, so it's really from here on out, and that starts with making sure that we're staying disciplined, because again, not just Michigan. If you looked at Minnesota, I want to say the Thursday game there, because it's a Thursday, Friday, we took 1 penalty. And so if we can keep that to 1 to 3 and play the game the right way, not take stick penalties, understanding that we have to take a couple hard ones, those are going to happen with the game, and we're going to have to kill those off. But don't put yourself in 6 or 7, because I think even the momentum of the game, when you're not using a lot of your personnel because of it, we know we're not playing to our identity.
This is the first time we've seen this group play the same team in a second series so far this season. How do you guys as a staff approach that differently, or what is your approach to that?
You know what? Not a lot different, but you can go back to some of the successes and failures when we played them at home. And so we watch a little bit more, and we'll do that. And you bring up a good point. It's everyone that we play the second half now. It's going to be that way. And so we'll use a little bit more video. And again, the learning, teaching moments, I guess, against a team instead of just watching them play somebody else.
How much different is this team compared to the last time you played Michigan?
You know what? I don't think they're a lot different. They were dangerous then, and they're dangerous right now. I think they got healthy. Rutger was in the lineup when we played him, but then they lost him for a stint. And he's a very important piece to their team, not just what he does on a scoreboard, but I think leadership-wise. And so everything I know right now, I know they lost Brindley in the Saturday game, where he'll be at. We're kind of focusing in on what we can do. So yeah, I think it's a very similar group.
What about your team?
You know what, I would like to think that we're a little bit hardened from the first half. We've had a lot of ups and downs, including the last game we played. I would like to think that we learned from that moment again, that you can't take a night off, and give Lindenwood credit on that. They came out and played a very hard game. But I think those moments, and we had one against Anchorage earlier in the year, that you can't take a night off.
You kind of talked about being on the recruiting trail. I guess I'm wondering, with given the success the team's been having this season, I assume Wisconsin gets a pretty good reception regardless, but has the team's success kind of changed things, or maybe added a little more energy to when you guys make calls to prospective players?
Great question, and it definitely does, especially with the young guys. Wisconsin's always going to be a prominent name, and like you say, there's a lot of appeal to it anyway. But when they can look at the standings and a lot of them have no idea what it means, a USCHO or pairwise. But when you can be in the top 5 in the country, that helps with those families and kids.
How are things looking injury-wise and August last week before the break?
We're getting close. Yeah, we're getting close. The only on Cleveland day to day right now, but I think he's getting very close, and we should be good to go. Throw out our lineup.
You guys have gone from a fun story to begin the year, like quite the start for Wisconsin hockey. It's Wisconsin hockey back to now being really a title contender. How does that take its toll on the team, the coaching staff, the overall entire operation?
You know, we'll see the second half, and it's one of those where it was brought up earlier. We're going to see all these teams that we played in the first half and had a little bit of success. So the one thing we have to understand is the Friday nights when we go into these buildings, we're going to get their A game. We're not surprising anybody, and we're going to have to embrace that. And that doesn't change us, though. Our mentality, Coach Hastings' philosophy, and I know it's dry at times with the dailies he talks about, and day by day, that's not going to change for us. We're going to worry about today getting a little bit better on a Tuesday practice and get ready to go to Michigan on Thursday.
There's a chance now you could go 10 straight weeks without a break for the regular season and the playoffs and everything like that. How do you guys handle that? You want your players to handle that mentally, because it can become a grind, but when you see that there's something out there for you, I would imagine that makes it a little easier.
Yeah, you know what? I had this question earlier. The one thing that makes that easier is probably the wrong word, but one, we've got a great atmosphere in our building. It's exciting hockey, and this is what these guys come here for, in a chase the second half of the year, so I don't look at it near as much of a grind. We get an opportunity to go play Michigan, probably in a packed barn this weekend, come home to Minnesota the next weekend, and I've heard really good things about our attendance probably for Friday and Saturday night, so we've got an unbelievable opportunity in front of us.
I guess this is more about your transition here, but I guess there's a lot of continuity, a lot of familiarity with within the coaching staff. And I guess I'm wondering, is this year basically is what you're doing here basically kind of what you were doing at Mankato? Is it, or what's the transition been like for you? Is kind of what I'm getting at.
It's very similar than it was to Minnesota State, just because me and Coach were together for that 12, 13 years in terms of what we do on the ice. What's a little different is there's so many new faces. And I think that was good for us, actually. It was fresh, both sides of it. We had 3 guys that we took over from Minnesota State. Dick came from UMass, but everybody else was new. And so I think that was fresh, and I think that was good for everybody.